Hi, welcome. This is Mariette Bates, and welcome to those of you who have come to our open house presentation about our Masters of Science in Disability Services in Higher Education. I'm going to do a short presentation, and then I'm happy to answer questions that you have. Hopefully some of your questions will be answered by the presentation, but I'm happy to stay as long as you would like to answer questions. So if you don't know about CUNY, the City University of New York is a kind of a collective of 24 different campuses. Some of our campuses are old, about 160 or 170 years old, but some of them are new, and we're one of the newer schools at CUNY. We began in 2003. We're the only CUNY school that's focused on working adults. We are the online campus at CUNY, so even though we have a few programs that are offer classes in person, almost all of our 3,000 students take classes online. We are fully accredited by the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, and that is the best kind of accreditation to have. So we are a legitimate university. CUNY has about 190,000 students in degree-seeking programs and about an equal number who are taking programs in continuing ed. So we're huge. And our School of Professional Studies is, as I said, has about 3,000 students in it. We are home to 11 master's degrees, 11 bachelor's degrees, 3 dual degrees, 9 certificate and advanced certificate programs. So like other campuses at other universities, we offer financial aid and career services to our students and our alumni. So I began in the field of disability in 1974, so I've been around forever. I was the program director at the One-to-One Foundation, and we funded all of the development of community programs for people coming out of institutions for people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut in the 1970s before Medicaid money was available. I co-founded a nonprofit to work on systems change advocacy, and I was there from 1983 to 2008, and then I left to come here to the CUNY School of Professional Studies. In my nonprofit, I worked with parents and self-advocates to develop services and organizations, and I started teaching courses in disability at CUNY in 1993. I started teaching at City College before the School of Professional Studies was up and running. Our Disability Studies program is one of the top 3 programs in the country, and we offer a bachelor's degree, an advanced certificate, a Master's of Arts in Disability Studies, and our Masters of Science in Disability Services of Higher Education. So all of those programs come out of our Disability Studies department. We try to create innovative programs that are geared to working adults here in the city of New York and elsewhere. So our MS in Disability Services in Higher Ed is the first of its kind in the country, and it was developed in cooperation with the Association on Higher Education and Disability, which is called AHEAD. Our program is taught by expert practitioners who also have experience teaching and are expert at teaching online. So our program is fully online. So if you're interested, if you're working in a disability service office and you're interested in acquiring specific and advanced knowledge and you wish to obtain an educational credential, this program might be for you. If you're interested in working in a disability service office, you might be interested in this program. But also people who are responsible for accommodations in public venues like parks, concerts, concert arenas, sports arenas, libraries, other venues like that might be interested in this program. The curriculum was developed with AHEAD. They had done a survey of all of the members of their association and asked them what they would be interested in knowing more about. And we took essentially the top 10 things that people said they needed to know about and kind of turned that into a master's curriculum. And that's how our curriculum was developed. Our program is a 10-course, 30-credit program. So each of our courses is 3 credits. We have 6 required courses and 4 elective courses in the program. The final course, which is one of the 6 required courses, is a capstone course, and it integrates what students have learned in the program. Students can choose to do an internship, and that's particularly useful for people who don't have hands-on experience working in a disability service office. So if you're aspirational about working in higher ed in such an office, then that internship might be good for you. For people who are already working in the field, some of them are preparing an e-portfolio as their capstone, which is a way of really showing what you learned in the program. You create a website and you have information about yourself, and then you upload your best work that you did while you're in the Masters of Science program, and reflect on what you learned, and then talk a little bit about how you're going to take what you learned into the future to assist college students with disabilities or make the world a more accessible place for individuals with disabilities. Some of our master's students are doing a thesis, so they're doing an actual long research paper for their capstone project. So people have a choice. If you're working already, it's a little bit difficult to do an internship. So I just should give you that caveat, because we require some substantive work so that people are prepared to work in this field when they graduate. So our 6 required courses are psychosocial, cultural, and political aspects of disability, which kind of introduces people to disability and certain topics that from the lens of disability studies. There's a course in legal aspects of disability services, which is really about the ADA/AA as it pertains to higher education and college venues. There's a course in assistive technology in higher education, a course in higher education disability service administration. So that course teaches the students how to run a disability service office, but also how to work with other departments on your campus to advocate for students with disabilities. So it's a kind of an administration course. There's a course on neurodiverse students in college, which deals with students who have a variety of differences in learning. And then the capstone, the disability services capstone course, is the last required course. Students take 4 electives, and you can choose from a course in universal design in higher education, a course in emerging populations, so new populations of students that are coming onto college campuses, veterans, students on the autism spectrum, and so forth. There's a course on accommodations outside the classroom, so if accommodations are needed at residence halls or co-curricular activities, that course really prepares people to do that. We have a course on how to support students with psychiatric disabilities, which is becoming more important on college campuses as we have more students with kind of co-occurring conditions on campuses. There's a course on disability and diversity, and usually in the summer, we run a special topics course. So a couple of years ago, we ran a course on the transition from college to work for students with disabilities. And last summer, we ran a course on supporting students with intellectual disabilities on college campuses, because there are more and more students who have intellectual disabilities that are coming on campuses through the federal programs, the TIPSID programs. And we also have an option for students to do one independent study in disability services during their time with us. So here are some frequently asked questions that students give us. Can I transfer graduate credits to the new degree? And the answer is, it depends. This is a new degree. It's kind of the only one of its kind, but there is, for example, a certificate program at the University of Connecticut that has many of the same kind of similar courses. So I have accepted graduate credits from that program. And there may be similar programs that you've taken in other, in other master's programs. I'm certainly willing to look at accepting transfer credits, but I do it on a case-by-case basis. People often ask how long it's going to take to get your degree, and the truth is I can't really answer that because it depends on how many courses you take. So some students take a couple of courses a semester. They're working, they have families, but they are able to take 2 courses. And for those students, they can take 2 courses in the spring, a course in the summer, 2 courses in the fall, 2 courses in the spring, a course in the summer, and they can graduate in 2 years. But many students don't want to take summer courses. They'd rather spend the summer with their families or just take a break. So for those students, it can take a little longer. And we do have students who have very demanding schedules. And for those students, some of them will only take 1 course a semester. So, so they may take longer to get their degree. People ask if the program is really online, and the answer is yes, it really is. We have students all over the country in this program who have completed it, and you really only have to come to campus if you'd like to attend our graduation ceremony, which I suggest you do because it's really nice. We do provide accommodations, of course, for students with disabilities, and that is, we have an office in our Student Services office that works with students to provide accommodations that they need. What's the difference? So one of the questions is, what's the difference between the MA in Disability Studies and the MS in Disability Services? Disability studies is a topic that, or an academic field that really started back in the 1970s. And it's really an interdisciplinary look at disability in society. So we look at disability from a whole variety of standpoints, from the humanities and the social sciences, from medicine, from law, but it's not an applied degree. That is, we don't prepare you to actually work in any particular field. We have people in our Masters of Arts programs that come from a variety of different fields, and they're pursuing a whole variety of different aspirations when they graduate, but it's a much more generalist degree, and it's a Master's of Arts because we incorporate the humanities much more in that program. The MS in Disability Services in higher ed really prepares people to work in higher education in a disability services office or in a public venue providing accessibility services to people. So it's a much more applied degree. We teach people, about assistive technology and about the laws that applies to colleges and public venues. So it's really prepares you to do that particular job. Okay, so it's a less general degree than the MA is. Are there scholarships? We do have scholarships in our program. You can find a list of scholarships on our website. It's under, I think it's under tuition and fees, but there's a link to scholarships on our website. They're not big scholarships. People don't get a full ride in this program, but there are opportunities for scholarships. So people want to know if there are jobs for graduates, and the answer is yes. People often in this program are working already in the field, but not all of them are, and our graduates have gotten jobs in disability service offices as assistant directors. In disability services, most of the people working in those offices have degrees in social work, in special ed, or rehab counseling. But those programs really don't teach you about assistive technology or about the law or about neurodiversity. So this program is much more tailored to people who want to work in this particular field. In order to be admitted, you need a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution, a personal statement about why you would like to come to this program, a resume. You need 2 letters of recommendation, and the letter should be either from a professor that you had in college, or a supervisor at work. We want to know that you can study on the graduate level, so you can't give us letters from your mother or your best friend. They have to be people who have been in a position to be able to assess your capability of working on the graduate level and accomplishing schoolwork on the grad level. So, so you should be aware of that. You need a transcript indicating that you have a GPA of 3.0. That's a B average. If you have a lower GPA, for any reason, you should address this in your personal statement. We do have people who have disabilities who really didn't get the accommodations that they needed, or sometimes in bachelor's programs, people have had a kind of disaster at 1 semester or 2 semesters. And so it's important for us to understand why your GPA might not be 3.0. We do look at applications holistically, so so please, just address it in your personal statement to us. The application link is on our website. Our deadline is December 6th, 2018. Classes begin on January 25th, so it's quite a tight timeline. Generally, we would be able to hold your application for a period of time until all of your documents are in. But because the deadline is so short, we want to make sure you're in the system. We need to create accounts from you. We need to have our committee review your application. We need to get you through orientation. So there's not a lot of time to do all that. So if you can make every attempt to get your letters of recommendation and all of your transcripts by the deadline, that would help us a lot in reviewing your application. If you can't quite make it, we'll hold your application for a week or 2 if you don't quite make the deadline. But it's the holiday season, and so any help you can give us in terms of getting your documents in would be terrific. One thing that you need to know is that we need all of your transcripts from your bachelor's program and any graduate work you did. So if you took 10 courses at one particular college and then you transferred into another one, which is where you received your degree, we still need the transcript from that other college where you took the 10 courses. So I just wanted to make it clear. Helpful staff. Felix Huertas is our financial aid specialist, but he also has some people who can help you in his department. So the email is financialaid@sps.cuny.edu. Christopher Lydon is our student services coordinator, and he is responsible for accommodations here. So this is his information. So if you're going to need accommodations and you're applying to the program, it's good to make contact with Chris early on. If you have questions about our program, our assistant director is Tamara Colon, and this is her email address and her phone number. And you can also contact me. I'm Mariette Bates, and this is my email and my phone number. And if you're interested in, just descriptions of our different programs, this is the site to do that at CUNY. So now I will take questions from you, and I will do my best to answer all of them. So let's expand the questions here. And let me drag this out, and I'll try to take them in order. So just type your questions in the box if you have questions about the program. I'll give you a minute or 2. Hi, what's the application deadline? It's December 6th, Katie. So so you have a little bit of time to get your application in. I think it's midnight on the 6th, but it would be better to get it in on the 5th just to make sure that there's no glitches with the apply yourself system or anything. Other questions? I know that you have them, and I know that if one of you has them, other people have them too. Aha. I saw your university uses a lot of online textbooks. Would that be for all courses? We do have an initiative to try and use open sources when possible, but the truth is in some courses we can't do that. So for example, in our law course, you know, unfortunately law textbooks tend to be expensive. So we do use textbooks as well as open educational resources. So it depends on the professor and whether they can locate you know, materials that will essentially enhance learning without having people buy text. But there are times, to be honest, when some of the students really do need to buy textbooks. We try to reduce the cost though. Is December 6th the deadline for the fall 2019 semester? It isn't. December 6th is the deadline to start in the spring of 2019. Usually the deadline for the fall, to start in the fall, is in May sometime, but it may not be up yet. That application deadline probably isn't up yet. So the deadline for fall, to start in the fall, will be in May sometime. It's usually the beginning of May. So there you go. I'm professional from Budapest. How common is it for foreign students to enroll? We have a couple of foreign students. We have people from Canada, which may not seem like a foreign country, but it is, because the laws are different. And so our law course, for example, you know, would be interesting to you, but might not apply. Because we're an online program, though, we do have students from all over the, you know, all over the place. Our requirements for foreign students is that you would need to have your bachelor's degree evaluated by one of the companies that does that. There are educational companies that evaluate transcripts because we need to know that you have the equivalent of a bachelor's degree here. So that's the first thing. And we would need, because your degree was in is in a country that doesn't speak, you know, is that official language isn't English, you'd need to take the test of English as a foreign language, the foreign exam, and there are some requirements for the score you have to get there. And those are on our website. It's under admissions. There's a link for people from international, you know, countries. You don't need visas, obviously, because this is an online program. So. We don't offer core classes in the summer sessions. To be honest, it's because our summer session is about 7 weeks, and a lot of the courses are pretty intense, and we can't collapse them that much. So we try to offer courses that are not as intense in the summer, but are useful to the students in the program. Can an independent study be part of the work you're doing in the career? Yeah, you can do something like that. It just has to be in a different area. So for example, if you're the person who is doing monitoring of exams at your university, for example, then your independent study should be in the field of assistive technology, or you know, in trying to change syllabi so that they are more universally designed or something like that. So it has to be in a different area in the same office, and hopefully one you're not familiar with. The other thing is that you need to put in a significant number of hours into an independent study. So you want to make sure that you have the ability to also do the job that you're currently doing, as well as being able to take on an independent study. But usually we do independent studies towards the end of the program. So we have some time to talk about it if you enroll in the program. Do online students pay the technology fee? And Lynn, I am sorry to tell you this, but yes, you have to pay all of these fees. I don't know why, but you know, but universities like to sock the students with all these fees. So yes, you have to pay all of them. I'm apologetic for that, but you do. Okay. So, oh, so Melissa, you're an accommodation coordinator already. So yeah, so we can talk about how to, you know, make your make an independent study work for you. And it may or may not work, but it's we're happy to talk about it. So Kate, you want to know how often the courses are offered? I offer the required courses every semester, and I rotate the electives. There are, I'm trying to think about how many electives we have. I'm going to go back so I actually, oops, no, but we generally rotate them. So for example, this semester I'm offering universal design and I think emerging populations. And then next semester I'll offer supporting students with psychiatric disabilities and another elective. So we rotate them, but they're predictable because they're offered, all of them are offered once a year. The electives are all offered once a year. The required courses are offered every semester. Hi, Adam. So in case you have an MA, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to check with the admissions office about whether you need to get just the MA evaluated or the BA evaluated too. I know CUNY has some policies about that, and I'm not an expert in them, and I don't want to give you information that's misleading. So I will try and follow up with our admissions office who knows more about this. It's not an issue that has come up before, to be honest. So I will follow up and get back to you if I can do that. Okay. So you don't work in disability studies, but work in higher ed. What can you hope to do with this degree in the future? Well, you know, every college needs to accommodate students with disabilities. So every college has an office that works with students with disabilities. Sometimes they're in the advisement office, sometimes they're in student services, sometimes they're in another administrative office. But in larger colleges, you have people who are administering these offices and have a number of people that they supervise. In smaller institutions, there may be just one or two people who are providing accommodations, but it's a steady job. And if you're interested in really supporting students to be able to graduate, it's a wonderful job to have. It's kind of an advocacy activity. People in these jobs advocate for their students with disabilities with the rest of the people on their college campus. They work with faculty to try and develop assignments that can help students with disabilities demonstrate what they know in a way that is universally accessible. They help to make materials accessible. They help to do accessibility audits sometimes on college campuses. But you know, one of the real issues that students with disabilities have is that so many of them don't graduate because they don't get the accommodations that they need. So this is a way of really trying to assist students to be able to graduate from college so that they can then be active in a profession that interests them. And there are some real challenges to supporting students with disabilities, particularly in science and math, for example, those STEM fields, or in other kinds of fields in medicine. So you shouldn't think necessarily about people with an associate's degree, but think about students in medical school. We do have people who work at Johns Hopkins, for example. One of our faculty is works in disability services there, and they're essentially supporting people who are, going to work in the medical fields who have disabilities. So there's a wide range of things that people can do with a degree in this field, but also If you think about, we have had some people who graduated who were still working in high schools, but they wanted to get this information for their students with disabilities there. We have a couple of people in our program who work at actually at a financial institution that works with veterans, and their job is to work on accessibility with veterans. There are some people in government offices that are interested in having an accessibility coordinator at each of those government offices to work on access for not only the people that those government offices serves, but also the staff at those offices. So there's a bunch of things that you can do with this degree. But many people are going to be working in disability offices on college campuses. Kate, you're welcome. So Judd, I've done online classes. How are they run? So our classes are asynchronous. So usually what happens is that, so students are not usually online at the same time. They run, a class typically runs from Monday through Sunday. And so students may start reading materials or engaging with the materials on Monday. By Thursday, they're required to start an online discussion about the materials that they've read. We also have other projects that people do, so that, but those projects are kind of similar ones that you would have in an in-person program. Obviously, you know, if you're, I think our course on providing accommodations for students outside the classroom, for example, those students actually go to, you know, a university nearby and, you know, talk to people about what they do. So the classes are asynchronous. You're not required to log in at any particular time, but you do have tasks to accomplish within a week's time. So I hope that kind of answers your question. How many students are in the program? At the moment, we have somewhere over 60, I think. So it's not a large program, but it's growing, which is great. Okay, so you're also looking at the certificate in disability studies. Our advanced certificate in disability studies will is kind of a four-course certificate, and it's a way of learning about disability and the social model, kind of the grounding philosophy of disability studies, without getting a full degree. That advanced certificate articulates to the MA program. So if you take the 4 courses in the advanced certificate and you like the curriculum and you think you want to continue on to the MA, those courses will transfer into the MA program, but they don't transfer into the MS program. So it's only for the MA. So just be aware of that, you'll learn more about disability, but it won't articulate to the MS. You know, disability studies started when our Rehab Act was passed in 1973, and it really allowed for colleges to be more accessible for academics with disabilities. So they started to come onto college campuses in the 1970s, and they turned the lens of whatever subject they were studying on their own experience as disabled academics. So if they were studying history, they looked at disability in history. And if they were studying film, they looked at representations of disability in film. And that was kind of the origins of disability studies. So it's really a broadly interdisciplinary program, and that advanced certificate reflects that. In our advanced certificate, you take 2 required courses, and then you can choose from a bunch of electives in the MA program. Okay. So that's kind of the difference. I hope it answers your question. So is there any interaction online with the instructor? Yes, I mean, you know, when I used to teach in person for about 15 years, and I taught classes that had, you know, 28 students in them when I taught at City College. And to tell you the truth, I know my online students much better than I ever knew the students that I taught in person. Because if you had a student in my classroom who didn't raise their hand and didn't talk much, I had no way of really interacting with them. And then there were always students who came up and talked at the end of class. But in online classes, you can't really get by without participating. So our instructors get to know the students very well, and the students get to know each other very well because they're engaged in these discussions with each other every single week. And they're required to not only post an initial reaction to the reading or video or whatever, or the project, but they're also required to comment and engage in discussion with their classmates. Now, when I teach, I also respond to every student every week. So that's a lot of interaction with the professor. And in a way, it's, I think, more than you would get in an in-person class. It's not the same as an in-person class. There are differences. And so online teaching and online learning is different, but I think it's as enriching, and there's certainly as much interaction. This program does not require the GRE, so we don't require the graduate record exam here, just your transcripts and 2 letters of recommendation, and resume and a personal statement. Average type of workload. I would say that you should plan, if you were taking an in-person class, you would plan to be in class for 2.5 hours a week, right? Plus commuting time to get to class. And then you would plan to have probably double that number of hours doing reading and writing and other kinds of work. So I would say that our courses are similar. You should plan for at least, I would say, 6 to 9 hours of work for each course. In some courses, they're a little less intense, so it may be a little bit less, but there's some courses where there may be a little more. I would say every course requires discussions every week. Most courses require writing, if not every week, about every other week. There are projects, there are field projects, and there are term papers, just as you would have in a usual course. So we try to spread the assignments out so that not every class, has everything piled on towards the end of the semester. Because it's an online class and we're trying to make sure that students interact, a significant number of points that you earn for every class tends to be in the online discussions, about 1/3 of it, or maybe a little less than 1/3, or about online discussions. But that doesn't mean that there isn't significant reading and writing that is required in this program. It's pretty rigorous. Okay, other questions that people have? I just want to tell you that we did, last semester we had a couple of students who wanted internships. One of them worked at a college in the Disability Service Office, and it was a college that was kind of decentralized and didn't have a lot of staff. So that student ended up working at several different campuses, meeting with students, doing assessments, and arranging for accommodations. So it was really a hands-on internship. One of our other students who lives in California did an internship at a totally online college, providing accommodations to those students who were taking classes online. And she was hired as a result of that internship. So that's kind of the information about internships. Okay, other questions that people have? No. I'll give you another second to type them in, or a couple seconds. You can always contact Tamara Colon or me. I'm happy to talk to students if you would like to talk to me at any point. And So if you suddenly decide that you have a question after this is over, I'm happy to entertain them. We'll record this and send the link out too. So if you missed something, you can come back. Oh, here's a question. If you choose to do an internship, would you have to find that on our own? Our career services office assists you. So what we do is talk to you and see if you have ideas about things you'd like to do, and then we do a little research. So it's kind of a mutual endeavor to find internships. But hopefully what we want to do is find one that's nearby your, where you are, so that you don't have to travel too much. Luckily, there are colleges all over the U.S. And most of the disability service offices are welcome, are happy to have an extra pair of hands to come in, and particularly somebody who knows something about the field. So we haven't had too much of a problem. The main problem we had with internships was that people wanted to do an internship, but as it turned out, because they were already working, they didn't have the hours available to, to actually do them, because they had a full-time job, and the hours that the university needed interns weren't the hours that they could actually be available because of their other jobs. So that became an issue. But other than that, it wasn't too much of a problem. So, okay, so I guess I'm through with this, and if you'd like to, again, if you want to call me and ask a question, or call Tamara and ask her a question, we're happy to speak to you afterwards. And I hope to read your applications. I hope you'll apply. I think it's a good program. I think it's I hope to really professionalize this field and support students with disabilities so that they can achieve their educational goals, and hopefully that will help enhance their life goals as well, and their quality of life. So thanks for coming, and we hope to read your applications.